not trying to knock you out with a jab. He's just happy if he touches you in the face, because that knocks you off balance, it messes up your rhythm, it unsettles your flow, and you have to reset afterwards. And he's become a master of doing it, become a master of flicking that. It's a flicky jab, but you don't want it in the face when an 18-stone man's flicking in the face with those 10-ounce gloves on. You can feel his knuckles in the face. It might not look devastating, but take 16, 17 of those around, it starts marking your face up.
100%. And for me, the important thing was Tyson being a big man when he was throwing a jab like Davidson, he wasn't stepping into it. If I'm stepping into it, Wilder's just got to time me with a right hand. I'm not going to give away a jab to take a right hand, especially off of this man. He boxed around Wilder. He threw the jab while circling Wilder, which is important because if he's trying to punch through the target, I'm giving an opportunity to take one back. And the double feints, as well as it makes you make a decision. If you don't respect it, I'll make you pay for it. Yeah. And if you do respect it, it's opened up the distance. So it worked in different ways for Tyson as well.
What I also thought he did well, because I believe he's
Those are the words of Ben Davison and partial of David Haye. Of course, you had David Haye, Ben Davison. They were doing a breakdown on the No Filter Boxing, okay? And of course, Ben Davison reveals secrets behind Tyson Fury's defense in Wilder versus Fury, okay? Now, this was the first fight. Now, I'm pretty sure he's at liberty to talk about whatever he trained and what he worked on with Fury to be victorious with Wilder, the first fight. Let me get to that last. Let me say this. To hear Ben Davison breaking down their game plan, their strategy, the jab, the flickering jab, the purpose behind the flickering jab, the way that Tyson Fury boxed around Deontay Wilder just like a matador did really to a bull. But in this case, the matador was just as big as the bull, but the bull had the respectful power of the horns, just like the right hand of Deontay Wilder. And I'm taking all this in and I'm listening to Ben Davison. And I'm thinking to myself, like, you know, that's one hell of a PTI instructor. You know what I mean? Because John Fury, as of yesterday or a day before, you know, they had the panel of the debate, which I still have another volume to send you guys, which I will. But John Fury was really criticizing Ben Davison's experience, you know, saying, hey, this guy was a PTI instructor. And then Counterpunch from David Haye, which is right there. And he was like, well, everyone started somewhere. You know what I mean? And, you know, John Fury was like, well, hey, he's just a companion. He's just a buddy. He's just someone that was there. But, you know, again, you know, hearing him break down the first fight, he knew what the hell he was doing. Okay? Now, the game plan, the total game plan might have not been right compared to another person's instructions. But was that the reason Tyson Fury got caught? That's your question you ask yourself. Was that Ben Davison's fault on the reasons why Tyson Fury got caught with that massive right hand followed with the left hook to make it look a little better? But it was the right hand that hurt Fury and knocked Fury and made his head bounce off the canvas the way it did. Was that Ben Davison's fault? That's the question you ask yourself when you're dealing with John Fury criticizing Ben Davison, Tyson Fury, you know, or Ben Davison not in Tyson Fury's corner anymore. So it makes you think like, okay, well, what is what? Well, we do know that Ben Davison left on his own accord. Okay, now Tyson has went as far as wanting him back. Well, if he wanted him back, he needs to reach out to him because obviously he knows what he's talking about. Now, the dark side, the downside, the cons of this is, you know, maybe he's talking too much of what Tyson Fury is already about to do. See, someone on Team Wilder could look at this and establish a game plan, you know, from this. So again, Ben Davison, you know, he's revealing secrets, I feel. I think he shouldn't talk this much about the rematch, even though the strategy in the second fight, the rematch, is supposed to be totally different. You don't know that. What if he goes back to that flickering jab, right? And then they have something to counter that because they already know, okay, this is what he does. This is what he's good at doing. This is what he always does. So if they know that and they're listening to Ben Davison break it down, oh, okay, I see what he's doing. Now you have to learn to cut off the ring. That's if Deontay can cut off the ring. Because regardless of what anyone says, the corner of Deontay Wilder was not happy. Their corner was not happy. They did not know. There was rumors Mark Breland left. Okay? So, we seen him at the end of that when the decision was announced. We seen Mark Breland. But that didn't mean he could have just, you know what? You know what I mean? That doesn't mean he left just to take some air because he was unhappy with what was going on. That doesn't mean that. So it was some stress. It was some panic on both sides, on both corners, though. Ben Davison was, oh, please, please. You know what I mean? Because he was his friend. But he was more than just his friend, as you can tell him break down the strategy and what they did in the first fight. Okay? He was the head trainer. He said what worked. He broke it down bit by bit. And it was very impressive. I'm impressed. You know, way to go, PTI instructor. If that's what John Fury wants to call that man, okay, so be it. But he knew what he was doing, and the game plan was working, and it worked for what, 10 out of 2 rounds. Okay, those 10 out of 12 rounds, should I say? You know, it worked. Okay, he was able to smother him. Deontay Wilder was trying to get that one big punch off. Deontay Wilder was the guy that seemed limited because he was only trying to do one thing. That's all he was really trying to do. Whereas Tyson Fury was flickering, he was feigning, he was double feigning, and he broke it down with this. Now, the con again, what he's broken down, what he's revealing to the world, okay, is exactly something that could be used against Tyson Fury in the rematch. So I really wouldn't want, I wouldn't agree with what Ben Davison is doing, talking about the fight, analyzing the first fight or whatever, because if that's his friend, he should be aware of what they could use against him. You know what I mean? Just like he said certain things that Tyson Fury did before and said before, or the mannerisms that he would wipe his nose and then he would become unfocused because he has to reset because that throws his focus off. No one ever needed to fucking hear that. No one. That should have been something between Fury and Davison. Okay? Not everybody. Because no one knows, again, if that is the same case. That's a habit. You know? And in this case, it's a flaw. Right? People work on habits. I get it. But flaws, you don't talk about a person's flaws, especially if it can be used against you. A habit can be used against you, but that's more like a flaw. You know what I mean? So with this, sure, Ben Davison, I think on his account, sure, is he proven himself by breaking down his game plan before to prove his legitimacy of being a head coach? Yes, he's doing exactly that, and I'm proud of him because I'm impressed. I'm impressed with how he's breaking down the first fight and what they intended to do and exactly what Tyson Fury was doing and why he was doing it. Yes, I'm very impressed with Ben Davison. You know what I mean? I just know he was a young trainer, and he got a lot of stick because he was a young trainer, and especially that was coming from the people on Fury's side, including John Fury, that wasn't really keen or wasn't convinced that this guy could lead his son to the promised land. You know? But yes, he did that. But back again, is that Ben Davison's fault that he went down? And I'll say this. Ben Davison breaks it down and sounds a lot better and knows a lot more that I'm convinced than Jay Diaz knows. You know what I mean? Jay Diaz talks like and I like Jay Diaz. Don't get me wrong. I like him as a person. I love his energy because he's like a guy that I feel is more than a trainer, to Deontay Wilder, just like, because he's been there for a long time, since day one, I believe. So he's been there for Deontay. Is he the best trainer? I doubt that. Because you can hear the way, people talk and the things they talk about, maybe he's just talking the way Deontay Wilder can understand it or whatnot. But the way he explains things, it is not precise. It's not the way Ben Davison is breaking it down. You know what I mean? So I think that Jay Diaz is more like a guy that John Fury thinks that Ben Davison is, if that makes sense. Okay? Because he thinks Ben Davison is more like a mascot, a guy, like a hype man a little John, you know what I mean? But in fact, no. According to this breakdown, he's a lot more than that because he showed what the game plan was, what Tyson Fury was doing, and that's how they did it. That's how they approached that fight. You know, I wanted to bring Jay Diaz in, for example, not to down him or to diss him, but to show the difference because Jay Diaz doesn't break down stuff like this. I haven't seen him do it as of yet. The moment he does, he will get props, but I haven't seen him do that. I've seen him talk like a hype man, like a guy that's in Deontay Wilder's corner to make him feel more confident, to, you know, that assurance. Again, that quote-unquote family member, that guy, that friend, that guy that's been there with him. It's more of moral support instead of the technicalities of everything, like Mark Breland is there. Because if that's the case, why is Mark Breland there? You see what I mean? Just like they had Ben Davison, then you had Freddie Roach. Okay, you got Mark Breland, you got Jay Diaz. Okay, so again, there's pros and cons of this video. I'll leave the link below. You guys tell me what you think. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.